Hello, this is Marta with Classes for Teens. Today we'll be doing another pre-algebra review. This will cover fractions, decimals, and percents. The notes that we'll be using are linked below, and there's also a practice set of homework linked below, which includes answers for you to do after this review today. So first of all, they want us to take 15%. It says write the percent as a fraction or mixed number. And when they mean fraction, they're talking about a proper fraction. If it turns out to be improper, which means the numerator is more than the denominator, then they want us to put it as a mixed number. If you can leave it where the numerator is less as a proper fraction, just leave it that way. So 15% means 15 out of 100. So I began by writing, I went ahead and wrote this one out, 15 over 100. And on my calculator, if you have a calculator like this, you can hit your fraction button and put 15 over 100 and hit enter, and it will simply reduce it to 3/20ths for you, which is nice. If you don't have this feature or your teacher won't allow you to use your calculator for fractions, then what we would want to do is say 15 is 3 times 5. And I know 3 won't go into 100, so 5 times 20 is 100. And canceling the 5s, because that makes a 1, right? Anything divided by the same thing as a 1, they cancel. And that leaves a 3/20. So we can do that either by hand or with a calculator, or both if you want to have fun, okay? Let's do the next one, which is 0.7%. Now, keep in mind our goal is to write this as a fraction. It's in decimal percentage form right now, right? It's written as a percent. Okay, so first I'm going to write it as 0.7 over 100. To get rid of that percent, I'm going to write it as over 100. Okay, that's where I stopped writing things out. And we want this as a fraction. So if I'm going to do this by hand, and I'll do it both ways, I suppose. I'm not sure how my calculator would even deal with this, but to get rid of the decimal, we don't put decimals inside of fractions. So to get rid of the decimal, I need to multiply the numerator by a 10 and the denominator by a 10, because that's like multiplying by a 1 and it won't change it. So we're going to think of this fraction as 10 times 0.7 is 7. 10 times 100 is 1,000. So in fraction form, this is actually 7 1,000ths. Let's go back and box our answers here. Okay. All right, let's see. I don't think your calculator is going to handle that well. Fraction form, 0.7 over 100 is, it puts it in decimal form. And I think you can make it put it into fraction form. Yeah. Okay, so if you get it in decimal form on this calculator, then you can hit the second option of this fraction to decimal button, and that takes a decimal and switches it backward to a fraction. So this calculator will actually do it that way if you have this and know how to do it and are allowed to use it. So let's move on to the next one. 3.35%, and they want that written in fraction form, reduced fraction, lowest fraction form. So I'm going to take 3.35 and I'm putting it percent out of 100. Then again, we don't want decimals inside of our fractions. So to get rid of 2 things after the decimal, I have to multiply by 100 because it has 2 zeros to move it 2 places, and just do the same to the denominator because that's like multiplying by a 1. Then that's going to give me 335 over 1 with 4 zeros. All right, so that is not in lowest terms, and it says they want lowest terms. So I know for sure a 5 will go into both of the numerator and the denominator because that ends in a 5 and that ends in a 0, so it passes the divisibility test for 5. So I'm going to take my numerator and I'm going to write it as 5 times, well, let's see, 5 goes into 33 6 times with 3 remaining, and 5 goes into 35 7 times. So The numerator is 5 times 67 equals 335. And if you didn't know that, grab your calculator or do division. So 67 is a prime number. That means it's not going to reduce any farther. So 5 is what I need in the denominator. 5 times 2,000 makes 10,000. Okay, so I've factored those, right? And then I'm going to take the 5 divided by 5 and cancel that because that makes a 1. And so my answer in reduced fraction form will be 67 over 2,000. All right, we have one more of these on this column. And it says to take 225%. And our goal again is to put that in a reduced fraction form. So I'm going to say that this is the same as 5 over 100. Box off that last answer. And well, notice my numerator is larger than my denominator here. That means that it's going to have to be written as a mixed number. So let's go ahead and write that as a mixed number and then make sure it's reduced. So how many 100s go into 225? 2. So I have 2 whole parts with 25 remaining, 25 100ths. But 25 100ths is not reduced, is it? So we want to reduce that. So 25 will divide into 100, right? So 25 divides into 25 once. 25 divides into 100 4 times. So here's our final reduced fraction form. Okay, let's try the next column. They're probably going to have us go the other direction now. That's what they usually do. Okay, these are fractions, yes, and they want them as percents. So, as we talked about in the last review video, to change fractions to percents, we need to multiply by 100%. Okay, so I take, this is over an invisible 1, isn't it? So I take the 2 times the 100 and I get 200. And in the denominator, 9 times 1 and I get a 9. And this is percent. Now, we don't want this as a fraction, we want that as a decimal. So go ahead and divide that out or grab your calculator. I'm going to do it on my calculator. Why not? It's 21st century. Hello. 200 divided by, I would put it as a fraction. Why not? 200 over 9. Enter. Now to change it to decimal form, I hit the button above the equals on this calculator and it's 22.2. Notice that this 2 is repeating. Since this is a fraction, I know it's a rational number, and rational numbers either terminate, they end, or they repeat indefinitely. And this is one of those repeat indefinitely because it was a fraction, right? So I'm going to write this as 22.2. And remember, in the other review, we talked about the bar notation means repeat that forever without having to write forever percent. So that's the answer here, 22.2%. Nice. Kind of started with a tricky one there. All right, let's try the next one. 2/3. So again, we're going to multiply this by 100%, which is going to be, and it's over a 1, 200 over 3 with your percent symbol. Now we want to change that into our decimal form, so I'm going to put it in my fraction. I don't know why I'm doing it this way, but whatever. 200 over 3, there are several ways to do it, always in math, but just one answer. 66.66666. This was rational, so I know it's either going to terminate or repeat. In this case, it's repeating. Notice at the end they rounded it to 7, but that's just because it's the end and they rounded it. This is really repeating 6. So we're going to have a 66.6, put the bar to indicate it's repeating, Okay, and we have one more of these. 11/16. Okay, we're going to multiply by 100%. That's going to give us 1100 over 16 with the percent symbol. Now I'm going to take this on my calculator. Fraction bar, 1100 over 16. Enter, put the button above the equal to make it decimal. 68.75. This terminates, and like we said, all fractions either repeat or they terminate. And if it doesn't do that, of course, it wouldn't be a fraction, it would be an irrational number. So here we go, 68, and you can review that from one of my other videos if you want. Okay. That concludes review number 8. We have a couple more of these and we will have completed our pre-algebra review. Remember to work the homework that's linked below. Check your answers before you do the next review.